Welcome to DreamHack Open Leipzig 2020. We've got so much coming up for you today. Of course, 8 fabulous teams, 100,000 euros on the line, and of course, the glorious DreamHack trophy. My name is Freya Spears, your host for the duration of this weekend. And of course, joining me up here on the desk are the wonderful Potter and Maniac. Guys, how excited are you to be getting into today?
I'm very excited. I'm extremely excited. I mean, I said it in the pre-show, the evolution of DreamHack Open is so interesting, right? The fact that we've had such a great roster for this event, such a competitive one, the names that are here, I'm talking about Heroic, talking about North, Virtus.pro, Mad Lions, that just makes for a great day, and finally we have some Counter-Strike back. I mean, I've been missing for about 3 weeks now, so it's time for Counter-Strike.
For sure. I mean, you speak about the evolution and also the elevation. All of these teams, and we kept talking about how competitive it is, but it's just DreamHack, the Counter-Strike space, everything is forcing every one of these players, every one of these teams to take every match and every round even more seriously than the last. So I think it's just getting more neck and neck as we go further down.
Yes, exactly. It's not only $100,000 and the shot at the trophy on the line. There, of course, is a spot at the DreamHack Masters tournament, specifically DreamHack Masters Jönköping. So there's a lot on the line for these teams, right?
Am I the only one who would like to know what is behind the case Masters tournament Q3? Can we have some information? Can someone in production just tell me what's going to happen? I mean, that is so much suspense. I want to know what else the tournament. But for now, it's okay. I'm okay with that. We see the fact that winning this event gives you a direct spot. That is the beauty of the Pro Tour again. And we're going to have our first direct qualifier this weekend. It's going to happen.
Yeah, I think there's some huge names that can definitely be in contention of taking that spot and lifting the trophy. I kind of want to get your thoughts a little bit, just talking about the lineup overall of the teams that are going to be coming here.
I got to talk about Cloud9, right? I mean, they're coming all the way from NA. I think a lot of our international viewers won't be so familiar with the names that are going to be coming up for this Cloud9 organization, and as it makes sense, I mean,
do you think I am? I'm going to count on you heavily on that one.
You're giving me that look as well, and I mean, a lot of these players, this is going to be their very first Open that they're competing in. And it's weird because we just saw them in Odense in the finals of EPL. So they're certainly used to playing at a high level. They're just not used to playing in these Opens. So I think we're still going to see a high level coming out of Cloud9, but it's going to be interesting to see because we've got a lot of curious fans out there wondering what kind of Cloud9 is going to be showing up.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, as we are part of the ESL Pro Tour, of course, that is the road to Cologne to take a look at. Of course, this is going to be changing a lot over the next few months. We can see a lot of the teams that are going to be competing, obviously here, coming into that, kind of upsetting the rankings a little bit. What are you guys kind of expecting from that? I
mean, Mark mentioned in his interview that MIBR had to fight for it now, but that is the truth of Counter-Strike. As you said, it has become so high level, so competitive. Yes, if you're MIBR and your name is absolutely famous and legendary, well, you're in rank 15 on the road to Cologne. You still have to fight for it. It's not going to be an easy road, and you might have to go through these tournaments to grind points to make it to Cologne.
Absolutely, and I mean, we spoke about every match and every round counting. You even get 10 points, I believe, for placing 5th or 6th in these Open tournaments. So, I mean, back then it was like a few $1,000s, which is a lot of money, let's be real. But being able to get those points on the leaderboard, it still counts a little bit more, I think, for these teams and players.
Yeah, exactly. And let's take a quick look at the qualifiers, the rankings, which we base the qualifiers off of for these tournaments. Obviously, you brought up a very good point in the pre-show, Maniac, of the level at some of these teams are coming into this event are at. Obviously, we've got Virtus.pro that are number 14th on that world ranking, so pretty high.
Absolutely. I mean, when we say this is a competitive weekend, we're not overselling it. We are not. 6 out of 8 teams that play this weekend are on your screen right now. You have Virtus.pro, you have Heroic, North, Cloud9, Renegades, Mad Lions. These are all teams in our list, in our very own tournament, in the top 24. The only 2 teams missing are Big and Sprout, and they can be dangerous. So if you don't believe me when I tell you it's competitive, then I don't know what to do.
Yeah, exactly. Well, speaking of our groups, let's take a quick recap at the groups for this DreamHack Open and Leipzig event. Let's take a look at exactly who is going to be in there. Maniac, you had a good point about Group B. It was the Danish group of death, I think you kind of phrased it as. And it definitely is, looking at some of those teams.
Absolutely is. If you look at Group B and you think about Heroic, North, and Mad Lions, these are all Danish teams. And let me just tell you this. The rivalry when it comes to national teams is extremely high. You want to be the best of your country. You don't want to use your countrymen. And even if the logic would say, well, North is probably the higher up, that's not the case. Mad Lions is actually the top dog right now. They have beaten their counterparts every time they met them recently. They have qualified at Katowice, which is insane. So yeah, Danish rivalry definitely going on in Group B.
For sure, and taking a glance over at Group A, we've got just as competitive as well. You speak about Mad Lions and Hunden, we got the German Hunden over there in big with Gobby coming back into the mix, coming back into that roster, and taking the reins in that coach role, which is pretty new for him, but he's always been a cerebral player. So I expect him to kind of pick up where he left off and be able to show exactly how much impact he can provide.
Yes, exactly. Well, and we've also got Cloud9 versus Renegades coming up later today, which again is going to be a huge matchup, especially as we were saying beforehand. If you've been maybe asleep for the past 2 months, you would think that is two completely different lineups to the ones that are coming into today. There's definitely going to be a lot of new proving grounds for these.
Yeah, I have this meme, what year is this in mind? Like if I just wake up and watch Cloud9 versus Renegades and I click on the match and I see the lineups, I'll be like, what? What did I miss? Who are these players? I don't know any of them. So, but at the same time, it's great. If you're Cloud9, it couldn't go any worse than the previous lineup you had. So, you know, it's great to have fresh blood under these tags.
Yes, exactly. And we're going to start off by talking about our first matchup, which is Virtus.pro versus Big. What are you guys kind of expecting from that game?
Well, I think we have two teams in very different situations, right? VP, formerly a Vanguard, making it to the grand final of the major, making a name for themselves. And then on the other hand, you have Big, who have, let's say, struggled is the word I'm going to use. You know, I don't want to be vulgar or rude on live, but it's been a hard road for Big. So now they kind of rebuild. They're trying to rebuild. They bring in Keto. You know, it's going to be complicated. But then, as you said, Gobby is there. Gobby is going to help, and I'm sure he's going to make a difference.
Exactly. I think the biggest question mark certainly has to be Big, just because, you know, when they made this roster change, and we spoke about it a little bit in Sevilla in that overtime show with the possibility of Searson and Keto coming in, and it did happen, which is great, but then Xantares is still remaining, and it makes this German lineup an international lineup. So it is a little bit confusing to understand exactly how Gobby and how Big are going to be able to utilize Xantares, because as you mentioned, all of 2019 was a little bit of a fail coming out of Big, and especially coming out of Xantares, because we have to remember Xantares was a superstar in the making. He was always talked about on the analyst desk, always talked about in the tournaments. He had breakout performances, and in 2019, he was very quiet.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we've got our map up for this first best of one. We were kind of alluding to it earlier. There's a lot on the line for these best of ones, especially in this format. But Inferno to be the final map that we've ended up on. Any surprises there for you, Maniac?
To me, it was either Inferno or Mirage. These would have been my two candidates for maps. Interesting to see Virtus.pro removing Mirage. That used to be one of their very good maps. Not exactly sure why they went there. If we go back to Gobby, on Inferno, that used to be his home soil. He used to be extremely efficient as an in-game leader. Now he's not in-game leader anymore. He's just in the staff. But just speaking of Xantares and the Big situation quickly, I've had the chance to talk with Toby, the coach from Big, and the situation right now is as following. They speak English at the moment. The team is going to play in English. They want to transition into German, so his goal is that in 2 or 3 months, people would speak German and maybe Xantares would talk in English. You know, he would understand German, talk back in English. And then they aim at becoming full German speaking in about 5 or 6 months. This is where they're going, but that is not the case at the moment.
Well, we'll be talking about them a little more in depth in a second. But first, let's take a look at their opponents Virtus.pro and what they had to say before this matchup.
Our team is feeling great because after the new year, after the break, we started practicing like a lot. We had a 10 days boot camp and we played a lot, we practiced a lot, we just discussed a lot of things, added a lot of rounds, and I think we are pretty ready for this tournament. We are playing only for the wins, like no matter who is our enemy, we are feeling confident, we are feeling like brave, so no matter, we are playing for a win.
Confident words there coming from the VP side. Brave as well, an interesting word to be using for these guys who, as you mentioned, Maniac, they were in a major grand final not that long ago, obviously under a different organization though.
Yes, absolutely. I think brave is the word that I want to focus on here, because for them, to me, this is a psychological challenge more than it is about Counter-Strike. We have seen them in 2019. We know they can play Counter-Strike. They've had crazy results, but then they went from being a team that basically surprises everyone and just is living the high life to a team that we expect a lot from. They joined Virtus.pro, super legendary tag, you know, so many trophies that VP as an organization has, you know, lifted. But now they have pressure. In Epicenter, we can argue about how they did it, but last place, if you're a fan, that's not something you want to see. So they are trying to prove that the confidence they've got from the fans is actually they're worthy of it. And that hasn't been the case so far.
Definitely. I think you said it perfectly. Going out in last place at Epicenter, I mean, they went out in last place with the likes of eHome. So it's certainly not something we expected coming out of VP. We always mentioned the fact that they made it all the way to that grand finals at that major. But I think Virtus.pro is in a weird phase right now where they're trying to figure out exactly how to get over the hurdle of becoming, as you said, a breakout team that had that breakout year in 2019 to becoming an actual actual consistent contender within the best of the best teams that we have in our space. And they're just right there, I gotta say, at that epicenter. I think that although they went out in last place, I think all of their rounds and all of their matches were neck and neck. They were very close. We have to remember they played versus Mouse Sports, who made it all the way to the grand finals. Then they played versus Fours, who again made it all the way to the semifinals. So these were two very top-shaped formed teams that they had to face off against earlier on in the tournament. And I gotta be real, they had some really nice rounds.
They did, and I mean, the man that we have on the screen right now, Adrian, I'm expecting a hell lot of him. And I don't think he has delivered yet quite what he can. Not only is he one of the most experienced players in that lineup, he's won a major, he's been in all around the scene. He needs to teach them how to be professionals, how to be top players. But as a player, he used to be one of the best. When he was in Gambit, I would have put him in my top 5. Granted, that is many years ago, many moons ago. But what he has been in Vanguard and VP right now is insufficient for me. That's not going to be enough. I need to see more from him. I know he can do more, and he needs to lift his share as well. He cannot only be the tenured mentor. No, he needs to frag as well.
Well, Virtus.pro have got a lot to prove coming into this, but let's take a look at what Big had to say, their opponents, for the first matchup.
We're really excited to play again in the German tournament, especially like it's really close to Berlin. We are from Berlin, as many know. And we are a new team. I hope we have a pretty good show here, and we're all excited to play here. Obviously, it's a really tough tournament. There are really good teams in here, and I expect to be at least in the semi-final, to be honest. But everything can happen because all the teams are very good here, and we will see.
The hometown favourites indeed. We could hear the crowd out there cheering for them as soon as they came up on screen. So they've definitely got that advantage kind of coming into being this on German soil in Leipzig. It's definitely an advantage for them.
Yeah, I mean, it always plays a role. When you hear the crowd cheering for you, you have a good action, a good one-man action, you win a round and everyone is clapping, yes, it does fuel you. That is a fact. Now, that being said, I do believe that for Big to make a deep run, they would need to overperform right now. Granted, they don't have much preparation. It's a new lineup, new roster. But the circumstances probably are here for that to happen. They could overperform. They're home, it's a honeymoon period, they have the crowd for them. If might happen. That being said, I'm done. My heart's been broken by too many times. I've been naive, I've always gotten him back, and they betrayed me again. I'm done. Big has broken my heart too many times. I'm waiting for them to surprise me in a positive way.
Look, I mean, it all comes down to Godby. I think, he's been watching from the sidelines since last summer, ever since he's been benched, and I feel like he's going to be coming into this tournament with a lot of fresh ideas. I think having a different perspective, taking a step back from competing and being able to kind of look at it from a different perspective in hindsight and understanding and realizing your shortcomings or how come your team didn't really perform to the level that you expected it to. I think Godby's going to be coming in here with a lot of fresh ideas. He should have been able to figure out exactly how to utilize Xantares in a more effective way, and I'm expecting to see that here in this very first match.
Yeah, and just to touch on quickly on Godby's position, as we can see right now, Toby is behind them. That is still their coach. Toby is going to be on the stage with them, live coaching during the freeze time, I mean, whenever he can talk. Now, Godby and him, they were together for the preparation. They all watch the games together, they create the game plan, and then what Godby's doing is basically reviewing all the demos, is helping one-to-one players to evolve and try and fix the mistakes they have. Obviously, he's going to have a big role with Xantares when it comes to communication, integrating him in the game plan. I think the Xantares experience has been a failure so far. I don't think he has delivered quite what he can. So I'm waiting to see what Godby can, bring to the table so that we see the Xantares that we used to see in the past.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I kind of want to pick up on Godby a little bit more there. Obviously, we were kind of talking about him obviously being on this roster formally last year. He's been watching from the sidelines. He's obviously got a lot of information and analysis to interject into this team, which I think could be a difference maker for this squad.
Exactly. And it's really being able to highlight Searson, Keto, and Xantares. I think Searson and Keto were the heavy hitters on that Sprout lineup. That's exactly why they were picked up and brought up into this lineup. And sometimes we see when there's a new lineup or roster formed, we see the heavy hitters, the loud players, turn a little bit quiet. They kind of struggle to figure out exactly their identity and their place within a new roster, a new atmosphere. So I'm hoping that Godby and Toby were able to grind out all the details and allow these players to actually shine in that server, because that's something we've been missing on these big lineups in the past, is just failures left and right.
Yeah, and the fact that we didn't even mention Tapson is absolutely crazy, right? To me, Tapson used to be one of the best players they ever had in Counter-Strike. He used to be the main force of that team, but I do believe that he just exhausted himself at some point. He was doing too much, he was doing all of the heavy lifting, in-game leading, he even picked up the AWP at some point. To me, that is absolutely lunacy, but all right, they do whatever they can. But now, if Surson is here to help him, if Keto is here bringing the frags as well, I hope that we can see the Tapson that I'm used to see, because they're gonna need him. He was always a sine qua non condition to Big having deep runs. So if we want to see that Big again, that goes through Tapson going back to superstar level. I don't want to see him being muzzled. I want to see him absolutely go crazy on the server.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think what's so interesting is that last DreamHack Open, we were talking a lot about Smooya, who is obviously no longer on the lineup. How do you think that's kind of going to change the team's gameplay and their sort of play style, if you will?
I think it should change a lot, because even though we mentioned that this team is still an international lineup, they are focusing on English, as you mentioned, Matthew, but we know Xantares has been working on his German. We know that he's been immersing himself into this culture and trying to be as German and as big as possible, right? And I think coming in with an almost full German lineup and not having so many international pieces in this big lineup, it should bode well for Big and kind of give them a slight push in the right direction.
I mean, if we touch on the Smooya discussion and Surson, I think one of the problems with Smooya was that depending on his level and the form that he had in the game, he would change a little bit his play style. He would take way more risks when he was filling it, being a little bit absent when he wasn't. I'm expecting from Surson to always just take his responsibility. Sorry, I mean, even if he has a bad game, it doesn't matter. The Counter-Strike right now is AWP-centric. That is the truth. You need an AWP to perform and do his job. Even if you have a bad day, Surson needs to step up and have Tapson as a secondary op. But I mean, I think Smooya was going a little bit absent sometimes.
Yeah, well, I think it is about time to get into our predictions. Potter, I'm going to start with you over there. Obviously, this is a best of one, so that does kind of change things a little bit, but who are you going to be siding
It does.
with?
I'm gonna go with Virtus.pro here. As I mentioned, although they failed at Epicenter, I think that they've been working on a lot of things. I just think they need a little bit of a push to actually show their work in that server. I'm going with Virtus.pro here.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with the air quotes. I really like them. They kind of failed Epicenter, but you have to consider who they played against and how. I do believe that VP has shown way more in the past few months. They are the logical favorite going into this game.
Yeah, I think I'm also going to agree with you there. And I think I'm going to echo your sentiment of being heartbroken by Big a bit too many times, because I think I sided with them in Seville quite a little bit. And yeah, definitely didn't help my prediction rate. And I'm very interested to see what Twitch chat I've been predicting for this as well. But I want to expand on your point a little bit. Obviously, you were at Epicenter, Potter. What are you kind of expecting from Virtus.pro coming into this, just seeing their sort of new form in that tournament?
A lot of really good flash work. As I said, I thought that they put a lot of prep and focus on their executes coming into Epicenter. I saw so much good contact plays followed up with amazing flashes. And I think that takes a lot of work, just because being able to get the timings right and setting up your own teammates for success to have the most optimal flash possible, it takes a lot of dry running. It takes a lot of repetition, a lot of time in that server. And Virtus.pro are just right there. They're very close to being able to show us beautiful Counter-Strike.
Well, exactly. And we're going to be heading to a quick break. But when we are back, we are getting into our first game of the day here at DreamHack Open Leipzig. Don't go anywhere.
Hello and welcome back, ladies and gents. Great to see you for the first event of the year. ESL Pro Tour is upon us finally, Pim.
Yeah, it's been a long break with no competitive Counter-Strike. I myself personally have been missing it a lot. I guess you have as well, Vince.
Of course.
It's been a long break, you know, and I think a lot of these teams coming into this tournament and coming into the new year are going to have high expectations, and I'm looking very much forward to see which one of these teams at this particular tournament that can show up and actually deliver.
Completely agreed with you, and as many of the players themselves said, as they said on the desk as well, it's pretty stacked. You know, typically open events, you have a couple of up-and-coming teams. Here, from top to bottom, there are teams in some really good form, like Mad Lions, that if you look back 6 months ago, you know, obviously Hunden has been a bit of a meme, but I think, honestly, here he's doing a phenomenal job again with young Danish talent, something that obviously you know a great deal of yourself, Pim.
Yeah, and I think, you know, it's a great point to raise as well. When you look at the lineups of this tournament, there's not a team you can rule out. There's not a team you say to yourself, all right, they don't have any, you know, any chance of getting into a semi-final. You even heard Tabson saying, you know, a little bit, you know, not without confidence, but he at least wants to get into a semi-final. Had that been Tabson last year at a DreamHack tournament, he would have said, we need to get into the final. That would be the minimum requirement. But he knows that this tournament is stacked. You know, there's a lot of great teams around. You know, Mad Lions is one of them. North bringing in back MSL. You know, have Virtus.pro on your screen right here as well, with a team that went very far in the major, a team that has major qualities, right? It's a very stacked tournament, and I think nobody can really expect to win it, but there's a lot of teams out there who expect to do well.
I guess that's very, very well put, honestly. And you mentioned the likes of Vanguard, now VP, big themselves, not with this roster, but some of these players, the likes of Tabson, has been very far in majors.
Be back, Vince. We may be back. We had a little bit of a technical issue here, but we're back. As you were saying, you know, a lot of teams, a lot of great teams. Vanguard, now Virtus.pro. You brought something up.
Yes, that a lot of these players previously in majors have also gone very far. It hasn't just been the likes of Vanguard VP. You know, you've had Tabson, obviously Xantares, ex-Space Soldiers play if you go back far enough. I think it's safe to say as well, and you really did raise a very interesting point there about Tabson. Previously, he would have had the confidence to say, oh, we're going to win the whole thing when we go to the finals. It also gives you an indication as to how poor 2019 was for Big. It really was a bit of a fall from grace.
It was a rough year for them. I think a lot of people, including themselves, expected way more coming out of that organization, coming out of that team. When you look at some of the players on that lineup as well, we talk about Tabson. We know he's a potential superstar. He's not up with the likes of a Magic's Boy, you know, or Cold Zero, or those types of players, right? But he's a player that, at a certain point, he was being brought up as a guy that could potentially help out a clan like FaZe, right? He could put in some more individual skill to that lineup and be a difference maker for such a great and individually heavy, reliant team. So he has a lot of skill. Same goes on for Xantares. I think that's the biggest disappointment for Big as of right now. The fact they haven't been able to enable his skill set. We know how good he can be. We saw that when he was playing within the Turkey scene before he moved over. Space Shoulders, Xantares, you know, one of the most skilled players that I've ever seen play Counter-Strike. We just haven't seen that in quite some time. So if we can get him elevated, if we can get him activated on a team like Big Clan, I think there's potential for an upset, and I think there's potential for a semi-final run, as Tabson were alluding to.
I completely agree with that. I think that one of the things that makes this such an exciting tournament is because it's so stacked, it's kind of hard to have a favorite. I mean, you'd probably say before the new year came around, especially if you look at the last year with Vanguard VP, they're probably one of the favorites to take this entire tournament if you look at pedigree. But now, as we touched on the desk, it's been a bit of a rocky period. We had the player break here. You got teams like MSL now joining North, which is huge. Could be the missing piece of the puzzle for North, honestly. Was in the past. They kind of dipped after he left. You got to be honest about that. So it's hard to say. I mean, if you had to pick a favorite, though, where are you coming down here, Jake?
That's a good question. I think guys on your screen right here, VP has to be one of the favorites at least. They have to be considered the most, dare I say, established teams of the ones attending. We know the skill ceiling of this lineup. We know how good they can be. We saw that at the major, you know, when they're playing well, when they're well structured, when they're really feeling the game, they can be one of the best teams at this tournament for sure. But as you said, there's so many teams out there. I feel Mad Lions is a heavy underdog. I think the fact that we don't speak about Heroic, even though they had a great last year ever since adding Cadian to the lineup, is also interesting. North bringing back MSL, as you said, we know, and especially with MSL, he always have these honeymoon periods, which is quote unquote new teams, right, where he does well in the first couple of months, and then it slowly but surely starts to dip down. But this is the first tournament they have together with him. They've been boot camping 5 days prior to this tournament as well. So there's a lot of great teams here, but I don't want to pick one team, but if I had to pick 2 teams that I'd like to see in a final, that'll be Virtus.pro and North. I think both of them have star quality. I think, getting to see Kirby on the level we saw him when he was in Astralis would be a joy for their eyes. So I'm hoping for them to return to form, and I hope that this tournament will deliver.
I'm sure it very much will, Pimp. Looks like we're about to jump into our first map of the ESL Pro Tour here at Open Leipzig. Big going to be starting on the T side. Now, not under this particular roster, but of course it was Inferno that saw them go pretty far at a previous major through some shenanigans.
It's a map they like playing for sure, and it's a map they definitely have been preparing on. We heard them in the interview saying they've been boot camping for quite some days, so they're coming into this tournament prepared. We get to see what they have in store for us in this pistol round. We see 2 guys have brought up the nades. That's Tabson and Tizian. Interesting that Tabson is one of the guys buying up the nades. You'd argue that he's one of the aim-strong players in this lineup, but he's being a team player in this scenario. Brought up the nade, smoke, and flash, and it seems like they want to end on this A-bomb side.
Only Buster's here, but he's playing more contact. He can pass away from the site, give this one up, call to the rest of his team. They haven't completely bit down on this, though. They haven't rotated any players across. They themselves have some utility, an incendiary smoke, flash, and a kit. So retake's not going to be out of the question here, Pim, but it does seem like we're going to start to see that B-hit come into fruition. They're going to realize the site's pretty much open, but Buster through the smoke into the head of Sirson. What a start to the round for VP.
Yeah, that's going to make this retake a little bit easier. That's a good grenade from Tizian, though. He's no armor right here, though, so it's going to be tough. I mean, he needs to hit the first bullet. He can't do that. James takes him down, and now this retake looks much more likely to happen. There's still a Molotov on Sanji as well.
This is where you're wanting that incendiary to be tossed down into one of these back corners. Lots of damage inflicted to VP, but Kicker does come out ahead of Zantares, leaving Tabson and Keto remaining. As you highlighted, Tabson, one of the most skilled players, but there's not much he can do when a bullet's put in the back of his head. And VP with a flawless retake, don't lose a single player.
No, that was a little bit disappointing for Big Clan, right? They got that bomb site totally for free. Buster, a little bit lucky getting a shot through the smoke, but that happens sometimes. You got to take that into account. Big weren't able to win the duels. They should have won at least 1 or 2 of those duels. You saw the players from Virtus.pro being low on HP, but if you don't get the kills, it's gonna be tough for you to hold on against that retake, right? There's too much manpower coming in against you, too many different angles you have to be worrying about. So Big Clan, despite not killing anyone in that round, they were somewhat close of actually pulling off that pistol round. So it's not the best start for them, but at least it should give them some confidence that they got the read right in this one.
Confidence and indeed some options now. It has been a hotly discussed topic about the current economic situation in Counter-Strike, especially on the T side. With that bomb plant, they could feasibly go for some rifles here if they so chose. So it'll be interesting to see if they do pull the trigger or not.
Yeah, we've seen a lot of these so-called Superman plays where you get 1 or 2 players to buy up an AK, on SG for that matter, drop it to their teammates who then buy up armor and drop a deagle in return for the SG or the AK. So you have 2 guys who have the full set of utility, so to speak. They have the guns and they have the armor. I don't know whether that's a smart thing for a team like Big Clan to do. I don't think they have that player where you feel, it could be Tabson, it could be Shantaris. Obviously, they have the skill ceiling to do that, but I feel Big is the team that needs to rely on the team play. They need to rely on the structure. The analysis panel talked about Gob B being the mastermind behind this together with Toby, the current coach. They need to have a set plan coming into a game like this, and I wouldn't start to deviate from that too much in the beginning. I would just stick to the plan, make sure that you get the economy under control. As we see on your screen as well, they decided not to go for the buy, and I like that approach from Big Clan. Play into your own strengths, make sure you have all the utility, make sure you can execute your plans with the grenades, and then let Virtus.pro have a round for free here.
Do still have some firepower in the form of deagles at the very least, so the 1-tap potential still on the table. A couple smokes do remain. Banana control being established early on by VP, courtesy of Buster. Going to be chased down by a Dren just behind him. And so far, VP in pretty solid positions, and there's no utility, as you highlighted before, Pimp, to really get them out of these close angles either. This is where the MP9 could very well shine and get a whole bunch of kills.
Yeah, there's not a lot to do for Big Clan. What they hope for here is to get a few cheeky kills, maybe get an opening that could rotate around the Virtus.pro players a little bit, but apart from that, It's going to be up to Tizian with the Deagle. It's going to be up to Tabsen. Buster takes down Tizian here, though. So that's going to make it way harder. They have no control. There we go. That's what we're talking about. Tabsen getting a kill. We see Buster down to 10 HP. There's a bit of an opening here for Big, and that's what you want. You want the players to rotate around. You see them come in here. Shantaris, can he hit this shot? Then that's a round open. Not seeming likely, though.
Bomb's going to go down under his tutelage and cover. So again, a decent round by Big. They didn't really put too much into this other than the 4 Deagles. Minimal investment, and they could still take this round yet. A weakened up Buster just on the periphery. The FAMAS-wielding James is trying to feel out where these T's are. They now know both of them are on the site. They're going to try and close in. This is where Deagle can be so very deadly, but VP with another successful retake. However, this is going to mean the Big have a very solid buy coming through into the 3rd round.
Yeah, that's a success, right? They get the bomb plant, they get 2 kills in Tabsen. Shantaris arguably could have gotten another kill, but still it's going to put on pressure on the economy of Virtus.pro. And as you said, Big Clan, they didn't buy anything into this round. A few deals, that's it, no utilities. So they're going to have everything they want and everything they need in order to execute their plan for the following round. Whereas you look towards Virtus.pro now, for whatever reason, Buster's down to 78 HP. There must be a grenade or something, but they also have 2 FAMASs, right? And they also have Citizen taking down James. That's a great start, taking down the star AWPer from Virtus.pro. Exactly what Big needed.
Yeah, great start. Again, a solid buy has been implemented.
I wonder how Buster lost 22 HP.
I think he got a love tap from a teammate's knife.
Yeah,
I think he got a left click at spawn. It was very early in the round.
You see that a lot in matchmaking, don't you?
Yeah. It always happens. You play Face It, you expect the team damage to be off, and then suddenly I've just right-clicked a mate and I've been kicked.
Oh,
Lovely.
Well, Sheer not mad at humans.
You can also see the impact that has early on for VP in the sense of their rotation. They've actually drawn Adren away, so B site's open, and they don't actually have any nades on Buster, so that's the importance of that early pick, as you highlighted.
Surely is. It's going to be all up to him to defend this bomb site. He's going to have this duel. He's going to be taken down by Tabsen. That's going to be it. This should be that round done and dusted. As you can see on the minimap right now, none of the Virtus.pro players are rushing over to this A bomb site. There's nothing they can do about it. That's it, right? As you said, they get the opening pick on James. They slowly but surely take banana control. They play around with the rotation of the Virtus.pro players, and all of a sudden it's all up to Adrian to win a duel. He loses that one, and that is round over. So Big Clan, yes, down 2-0, but I would say right now, you know, they got the best start of the game. They got the right reads going on. They seem to be in control, and now they're going to put on a lot of pressure on Virtus.pro's economy. Next round, they're still going to be able to afford a buy since they're most likely going to survive 3 players. None of the big guys can really afford to go hunting, but apart from that, next round could be a so-called key round where Big can really break Virtus.pro from the get-go.
Absolutely. I mean, that is the terror of the CT's economy in a nutshell. Even if you do start off in a 2-0, if you take casualties, you know you're only 1 loss away from being right back into the dumps again. Hence the early save. Inferno is one of those maps as well, though, Pimp, that retakes can be a real nightmare on. So when you have 3 players left in low economy, it just makes sense to pull the plug.
Yeah, it was the right play by Virtus.pro. As soon as Adrian died on the A-bomb side, there was nothing to do, right? They knew that from the get-go. Adrian wasn't able to get this kill. Nice by Tabsen, and that's it. So both teams, you know, making the correct decisions, but in this case, it was just Big, you know, getting the kills and getting the job done, so to speak. That has to follow up now. Another round here where they got the full buys. So does Virtus.pro. See, once again, this banana control is not being contested by Virtus.pro. I'm a little bit surprised that they decide to play so defensively towards the banana. You often see a lot of grenades and a lot of utility being used in the beginning, sort of to put pressure on Big, but they just get banana control for free. They're not even 25 seconds into the round, and you should already see 2 big players up all the way on banana. So they got a lot of map control already. That's great for the big guys.
Maybe still feeling the reverb of losing those 2 players early in the previous round. At least this does keep them with 4 smokes still in hand. They can stall off and stymie the push for quite a considerable amount of time. It's only James taking the first point of contact on Arches with the AWP. He can take that shot and pull back. Meanwhile, his other 2 teammates are playing very passively back on the site. So they've given up a lot of control here, Pimp, already.
Yeah, and I'm not sure I understand this coming in from Big Clan. When you get banana control that early in a round, you just want to walk up and take mid control. If you control both banana and middle, you basically have Virtus.pro where you want them, right? You can mess with the rotation, you can make them second guess, but for whatever reason, they didn't decide to take mid control, and Virtus.pro have had that throughout the entire round here. So They must know that it's going to be towards this A-bomb side. They have 2 guys lined up, Buster with a smoke as well. That's going to be tough for Big to break through. Adrian in a good position here. It is a FMS though. We know that's not always as reliable as an A-bomb.
Less bullets, but he does have Buster watching his back, and it's Molotov, an island of fire they have to walk over, and all their feet have been burned. It's looking ominous at best for Big. Beautiful flashbang, perfectly timed, and Jane on the rotation finds a Tizian out in the open. Easy pickings in the end, and Sersen can only really watch and try and save the AWP. So VP, hot off the back of having a bit of a rough round in 3, able to bounce right back in 4, and they only lose 1 player in the process.
Yeah, and I think that's a big mistake coming in from Big Clan here. The fact that they got banana control that early in the round. VP didn't use any utility. They didn't contest it at all. So Big must have known that there's a lot of utility to defend when we do the hit. So you gotta make pressure elsewhere on the map. You gotta take mid control, or at least you gotta drag out the utility on that A-bomb side to make sure that you don't run into fire and smokes like they just did here. So it's kind of basic in the world of Counter-Strike, but obviously when you're playing and when you're on the server, it's hard to always notice what's going on the map. But in a scenario like this, they must have known that they were running into a fire.
Well, the young blood of Quito is first in, but he's not going to get the first kill. Flashbang in the eyes of Buster, who is yet to die. May very well have his fortunes turned if they push behind this. But they're going to decide against it, which is maybe for the best. 3 players from VP now occupy over on the B side, leaving just Kickert on his lonesome with the SG in middle. This is typically the side they've Molotoved and smoked on arches. They're going to do it again, so we can't see anything. And he's just hoping for the best at this stage. Again, I think they're going to go for a gamble here, though, Pimp. If they obviously lose A, they just try and save on the B side with these 3 players, but they are moving over Jane.
Yeah, it's kind of in between right now, the gambling on both horses, so to speak, and it's going to be up to Kickert here. If he can get 1 or 2 kills, there's a chance. He lines up the first one, not able to connect the second one. There we go, another kill from Kickert. He stays alive now, so the rotation is coming in from Virtus.pro. This is not looking good for Big. That's what though taps and takes down. Sorry, Shantaris takes down 2 guys. James through the smoke as well. A little bit lucky, and there we go. As soon as they were starting to look scary for Big Clan, they turn it around. Nice play by Shantaris. Very important double kill he got right there. But Kickert on that bomb side, he did everything correct, right? He got 2 kills, he stayed alive, he allowed for the rotation to come in. What they didn't take into account was that there was a guy called Shantaris, and seemingly, he's ready to play Counter-Strike this time around.
If he has an upward trend in his just overall form, Big are going to be a real nightmare to contend with, because as you said, going back just a year or so, one of the most skilled players in the world. He's known as the Turkish Terminator for a reason. The guy would just flick it on and everyone would fall in his wake. So yeah, if he wakes up, VP are in trouble.
Let me put it this way, there's a lot of good players out there. There's a lot of players who have a great skill set, a lot of players who can make it big time and can be a star player on certain teams. But there's a very few players who get me excited when I watch them play, and Shantaris is one of them. This is just beautiful, right? And we know, as you said, how good he can be. When he's on his peak form, I firmly believe that he is one of the most skilled players in the world. So yes, he's a great player. He hasn't showed it as of late. Last year was a very disappointing year for him personally, but also for Big Clan. But if he gets going, he's one of the few players out there who gets me real excited.
Meanwhile, though, VP only going to have an SG to play with. It is the saving Buster, who's still yet to die. Constantly avoiding death. Adren, in the meanwhile, going to be backing away on Banana.
Another slow approach coming in from Big Clan. They want to take mid control, and that's a great call. Sanchi going down to Shantaris. Tapson as well with a kill, and that's it. The double duo of Shantaris and Tapson. You want to see them perform. You want to see them do well. And this round is more and more likely to go the way of Big. Slowing it down here, no need to take any unnecessary risk. I like the slow approach, I like the smart approach. They're making sure to cover off the grounds. They smoked off mini pit as well. Now they're moving into this bomb site. There are 2 guys on the side, but that's not gonna matter. Tapson's gonna take down one of them, key to the other one, and there we go. An easy round for Big Clan. It's gonna make it 3-3. Buster now with an SG. All he can hope for is to save it and bring it into the next round. But I like the approach from Big Clan coming in here. Slow and steady, methodically taking the map control, making sure always to have trade frag potential. This is Counter-Strike 101. That's how you want to play on a map like Inferno. So kudos to Big for doing that.
And if you compare that to the previous round, where you were highlighting that they tried to execute on B with 15 seconds, they'd done nothing to draw out grenades, it's completely the opposite way around. Sure, VP though, we're on pistols and a low buy, but the way that Big approached that round does make you excited for the rest of their T-half.
It always helps when you're just facing pistols, obviously, yeah. But it's the mental state of the game, right? It's the fact that we've now seen 6 rounds of Counter-Strike, and I'd say that Big Clan in pretty much all of them had the right idea. They've been going into the right bomb sites. They've been reading out the rotations of Virtus.pro. They just lack a little bit of that execution and understanding of how to drag out the utility before they make the big hits. So still a very open game, 3-3 now, and I think both teams are starting fairly well. Good to see Tapson having some impact early on. Good to see Shantaris having some impact early on. I need to see that. I need to see those two from Big Clan go off, because I think that will be the key for them. Not only to win this game, but if they want to have a great tournament this weekend, we need to see those two players go off. And if they do, as you said, I think we have a Big Clan that can be scary for anyone to win.
Oh, k1to has been obliterated on Banana, down to just 8 health from grenades. There's not too much utility elsewhere, though, on the belts collectively of VP. We've been speaking about Big's players to really watch out for. k1to's had a great start to this best of 1 thus far. But James hasn't really had the levels of impact that we'd be hoping for, so they're going to be hoping that changes momentarily. 3 for 3 with 60 ADR. Not a bad start, but with that AWP, surely he's got to try and turn his fortunes back around.
It's a very interesting approach from Virtus.pro as well. Look how far back they're sitting. They're sitting back on A bomb side, they're sitting back on B bomb side. They're not really taking any duels. They obviously know that the utility they have right now is not good, and there we go. Citizen with impact getting the first kill. Buster responds back. But this could be it, right? They can get this bomb side now almost for free. Buster is forced into ruin. And Big Clan seems like once again they make the right read. Question is, can they execute on it? We need to smoke CT spawn here, Vince. You don't like that, do you?
They don't have one either. And the bomb has crossed, but he's by himself. 30 seconds left. Flashbang's being tossed in. Buster is watching on the side. This is a 4v4, but it's looking like it's going to go the CT's way. They still can't cross. Finally, k1to, though, does connect and domes k1to out the round with an AWP. That could be the deciding moment. Tizian now swings in for 2. The bomb's still yet to be planted. Buster's here. His HP is high enough to really go for this as well. He might catch them in rotation, in transition. He gives his position away, and they nearly line up for him. But Big are going to win the round with 5 seconds to spare.
Thank you, Tizian, for saving us right there. That must be the sentiment from the Big Clan right there. That was a terrible round. That was a terrible executed round for Big Clan. They got the right read once again. They won the opening duel. They got Buster pressured into runes, but they didn't execute on it, right? They kind of stalled. They kind of hesitated a bit. And when you do that at this level, you often get punished. This time around, though, Tizian was able to execute it himself. 3 kills, and finally, you know, I think he was 0 and 3 before this round, and then he got 3 kills in this one round. That's impact right there, and that's what you want to see from a guy like Tizian. Now that I do not understand. k1to running up all by himself against the Deagle. No trade frag potential. Goes down. There we go. Taps gets the kill on Sanji, but here we go. 4 versus 3. This is falling apart from Big.
That's a real messy round. Centaurus, though, finally comes in with his SG, lays down the law, laying waste to 2. Only the 1-player advantage, and you can see how scrappy this is. Adren's able to run him right down Banana and try to get round the back of the T's. They have no idea. Now they found him, leaving Buster. 1 on 3, not much hope. But yeah, as you say, when k1to runs up and dies, you're thinking, not like this Big, surely.
Yeah, why would you do that? You know, both kills that Virtus.pro got was kills where the trade frag potential wasn't really there, so to speak. I don't know why the Virtus.pro player stayed in Archie. Should have just fallen back after he got the kill on k1to and then restructured the team. But luckily for Big, he didn't. Shantaris is once again showing up in these mid-round scenarios. It's not like he's closing out the rounds right now, but he has a lot of impact in the middle of the rounds, making sure they're swinging the way of Big Clan and making them essentially easier for them to win. We see James being aggressive down to middle air, falls back straight away with the AWP. Citizen is also playing defensively. And once again, we see the approach from Virtus.pro. They're just sitting back. They're not contesting Banana at all. They're saving the utility. They're not really fighting it at all. And again, 25 seconds into this round, Big Clan have full Banana control. And if they want to, they could have full mid control as well. I want to see that approach, though. I'm kind of surprised that the coach from Big Clan haven't realized that yet. If you get Banana control, and if you get mid control, you can basically control the entire map. And that's exactly what they're doing right here, Big Clan. I like that.
Yeah, you can pivot to either site and really try and draw out those CT nades that are going to cost them long term. James still holding his position. He's watching both middle and boiler simultaneously, not giving himself much room for error, though. If he gets double pushed, he should be going down. However, smoke and Molotov deployed onto arches, going to force Sanji back into the arch more passively. Even though VP are giving up ground, they're doing a good job of holding onto grenades and really going to try and grind this round out again. Smoke into apps, allows James to focus his attention onto the quad side. Oh, I feel like Sanji's going to be a huge part of this round if VP are going to pull it off. The smoke to library really messed with them, and now they're going to try a wraparound, but there's no player in Banana to pivot off. They're all going to be stuck in a claustrophobic angle of Speedway, but tabseN does come out ahead. 17 seconds to go. Do they check the angle? They do, but Adren's still to line them up.
Oh my God.
The third. That's the round going to VP, unless a miracle happens in 7 seconds. But the Molotov is going to stop them from getting the bomb anyway. What a nightmare.
What a nightmare. That was a very well-executed round by Big Clan, up until that point. And then we saw Adrian step it up. This triple kill right here, they even hardcore check him, right? They were aware that there's a possibility he can be in this position. He just hits the shot straight off the bat. Triple kill, and there we go for Virtus.pro. We talked about him. The desk talked about Adrian as being a player that needs to step it up if we want to see Virtus.pro, you know, become one of the consistent top teams. We saw them at the major do well. Adrian wasn't necessarily playing well there, but that's the potential of this lineup. If he's finding form like he had in Gambit, I think Virtus.pro could be one of the best teams in the world, you know. And when I say one of the best teams in the world, I'm talking a consistent top 10 team right now, which is a very competitive field to be part of. Good to see him stepping up. We've seen Shantaris play well so far. We've seen tabseN do some individual plays, and now we see Adrian as well. Arguably the 3 best players on the server together with James. So we see the stars showing up, and that's always a great sign for a tournament like this.
Oh, it really is, especially after a player break when everyone's itching to watch Counter-Strike again. You start to see these players shine in the early stages of what will be 3 days packed full of Counter-Strike action. Again, on the line is a spot in the Masters event. Not a small thing at all, but Buster has taken the head off Dursun, and then tabseN peaks instantly afterwards, just before the smoke plumes. 2 free frags for VP.
Once again, the SG prevails. It's something that's been up in the discussion now. We're going to see that as much this year as we saw it last year, given the price going up in the SG, but it seems like that's still the favorite gun. And a nice flash coming in here from Kickert. Sanji able to pick up that kill on Tizian relatively easy, and this round is going the way of Virtus.pro. There's no need to take any risk. James knows that. He falls back. Now it's up to the individual players of Big to see if they can fight back, and I think they decide to save this one. Bring in the guns to the next round. You can see in the economy, Searson is sitting on $6,700, so there's money for the Big Clan to buy into next round if they're able to save these 2 guns. So once again, making the right call, but just to move back to the point I was talking about before, we saw the SG being a very dominant gun, you know, in the early stages of 19 and in the middle of the season, but kind of faded out at the end, but it seems like it's been picked up again, right? The price going up in the SG is not going to make that gun less effective, and I think we're seeing the cause of that right here, right now. There was 2 relatively easy kills for Buster right here. He didn't even have to fight for it.
Oh, this is why the SG, when it gets across into the CT side, is just a whole different beast, because you can watch those angles all day long. It kind of picks up that position at the AUG, whereas the SG was nerfed, but not overly. I feel like the AUG really has fallen out of favor quite a bit. The SG plays that same position as the AUG used to. Seeing teams like ENT, for example, dominate with the AUG. Liquid had their moment as well. So it is that kind of gun you definitely don't want to lose.
I agree, and it's you know, you can advocate for both. Some would say that that's another tactical aspect to the game. Do you want to buy the ST on the T side and risk giving it over to the CTs, as you just saw here? Buster basically himself won the entire round just by having the ST at hand. Or do you want to play with the AKs and not risk anything at all, you know, but also give yourself less of a good chance to win the round? It adds that element to it, and I think we have to appreciate it while it's here. Whether it's going to be reduced, whether it's going to be nerfed once again, we don't really know, right? There's only a few guys out there in heaven who knows that, and Valve, but interesting it is, and Buster so far making the best out of it.
Searson feeling the impact. Nice flick though to Kickert, getting aggressive towards apps after the tactical timeout was deployed.
That's interesting, right? We haven't seen James do anything with the AWP basically, right? He's been trying a few times to get aggressive towards middle, but he's falling back every single time. Either he's just feeling it, you know. We know he's a defensive AWP player, but he's not really feeling for the aggressive plays here on Inferno. Now he's being pushed into the side with an AWP. Not the best position to be in, but look at the minimap right here. They've completely abandoned the A-bomb side. Stacking up 4 guys towards this one. Question is, does Big know that? Are they reading this correct?
They have sent 2 lambs potentially to the slaughter to find out the information about the gun. Protruding around the corner with Centaurus. That second shot must have been so slick. He must have spun to library instantly afterwards. I love to see that again. Jaime and Sanji, in the meanwhile, though, they have pieced out. They want no further part of this round. They have an AWP and an M4. It's Jaime time. Well and truly. Can't blame him necessarily, though.
Can't blame him, no. That's the third time, I believe, we see Shantaris getting a double kill in the middle of the round. I talked about it before. He's not the one closing out the rounds. He's not necessarily opening up the rounds either, but as soon as it gets into a 4 versus 4, as soon as it gets into that middle ground where you have to determine the outcome of the round, or at least the odds of you winning it, Shantaris have 3 times now gotten a double kill in just 11 rounds. That's impact at a high level, and that's exactly what you want to see from that guy. He's such a skilled player, and as you said, we didn't get to see that second kill, but that must have been slick.
That was the moment. If they both go down without much of a fight and just go with the whimper, the retake is well and truly on. I think we're about to see it here. So yeah, first kill into Arch, flicks across to the header buster. No scope required.
That's 30. That's just 30. You know, that's skill right there. Despite having an SG, sure, it makes it easier in that sense, but you would have done the same with an AK. He was feeling that one, I tell you. I tell you right now. And we see another buy round for both teams, right? This is another key round in the game. We see Big Clan, they're starting to make waves up 6-5. If they win this one, it's going to be a good grenade on Jaime. Look at that, down to 26 HP. Feels like he headbanged that one. Well, he does it all, Jesus, doesn't he?
Oof. There's a hefty amount of nade damage also inflicted as Quito gets tagged again, down to 41, but Surson took another nade on the forehead. Big have been catching them in the pockets over and over again, but at least they do equalize. Of course, no way of absolutely knowing that Jaime was hit by it, so they can't really push behind that information, but Big again, no big surprise, they're taking middle control. They're already getting up there with 1 minute and 10 left.
Yeah, and they're being allowed to by Virtus.pro. They're really playing it very defensively. They've been doing that throughout the entire game, both on the A-bomb side, but also on the B-bomb side. Really giving up a lot of space to Big, and you can argue that that's fine, because it doesn't really seem like Big knows what to do with it, right? It's not like they mess around the rotations. It's more like Virtus.pro. They're playing their own game. They're gambling, stacking, and gambling a lot of the rounds, so it's still them sticking to their own game plan, but Big is really giving a so to speak, big opportunity here to mess around with it for Virtus.pro. We see it again, 34 seconds left. It's going to be a hit towards this B-bomb side, and 8-1 picking up another kill through the smokes. That's going to be vital.
He knows he can just cut off that angle. Even if he doesn't get kills, it's going to be hefty damage. They know it's going to be the push now. Sanji with 1. 2 kills have came back instantly, though, from Big. That's keeping the dream alive. They have the bomb on the site. It will get planted momentarily. So even though they took their sweet time and they took casualties on the approach, they still have the slight advantage now on the retake, especially as Jaime and Adren are both tagged down. Just a Molotov and a smoke to play with a couple of flashbangs. Positions are solid on Big. 2 centrally on the site. Now all 3 players are tagged. We are getting towards the dying embers of this half, though. So VP may feel compelled to go for this, but no. They back out, they tap out, and Big will have a 7-5 lead.
I think that's the correct decision by Virtus.pro to tap out of that one. There's no way you're getting into that bomb side. You saw there was still a lot of utility on Surson. He had a Molotov, he had a flash still left here. He goes down to the bomb. Not that that's gonna matter anyway, but Big Clan, once again, they're getting the trade frag. They're utilizing the space they're given by Virtus.pro, and they're making it worthwhile, right? Even though they're losing the entry, so to speak, to 8-win, it doesn't matter, because they still get that bomb side control. They get the bomb down, they get into positions, and at that point, as you said earlier in the game, it's super, super tough on Inferno to retake a lot of the times, especially when your HP is down. So I think Virtus.pro, they're playing a little bit too defensively now. I would like to see them pick up some more aggression here the last 3 rounds in that CT side. Otherwise, I'm afraid on their behalf, that Big is just going to run away with it. You know, a 10-5 half or even a 9-6 half, that's a great result for the somewhat German squad here.
No doubt. Especially after, remember, they lost the first pistol. They lost the first round. It was 2-0. Tabson, though, he is going to switch up the pace. And he's going to get the rewards onto Sanji. Quicker, though, does get the kill through the box, but he's going to be silenced instantly afterwards. As Antares does get the avenging flag. There's a slight gap in the smoke. I was about to say it may catch Big off guard, but nope, Tiziad drills Buster in the head with his AK. And we're off for another save.
That's beautiful by Big. Picking up the pace, you know, we've seen them play relatively slow, take banana control, take mid control. That's been the story throughout the entire first half. This round, though, just straight up middle, go towards Arch, you know, make this split on the bomb side, and Tapson with another great entry kill. And we've been seeing him play well thus far. He's sitting at above 100 ADR, 12 kills into this game, and he's having a lot of impact together with Shantaris and Tizian for that matter as well. So it's a great start for Big Clan. It feels like they have a game plan, and they're able to change it up as well, you know, pick up the pace, surprise Virtus.pro. And once again, they're just sitting back. They're not doing anything. They're playing way too defensively for my taste right now. They need to do something. We need to see the guy on the screen right here have an impact with the AWP. He's sitting at 4 kills right now. It's not enough for James. He's supposed to be potentially the best player on the server, and right now, he's a non-factor.
Absolutely agree. He does have a good spawn to peek down Banana here, one of the best, but we have seen Big already implement tons of nades up Banana. Last round, James tried to peek it. He got burned down to 25 health, I think it was, somewhere around that mark, and it also contributed to the save. So I do wonder, from VP, that's why they're going to call a timeout, try and figure out what to do next.
But that's the thing, right? It's been so long, and it's so deep into this first half, the time might come. So if I'm Big Clan right now, I'm expecting them to be more aggressive. They know they faced Virtus.pro being defensive throughout the entire game. So what's the only thing you can do in order to change that up? Well, that's to be aggressive. So if I'm Big Clan, you should probably be aware of what's coming. Take another round where you're just slowly but surely trying to take the banana control, see what the response from Virtus.pro is, and then try to feel your way out of that. And that's the problem with doing the late timeout, right? You have no room for surprises, so to speak. There's only one adaptation, and that's to be more aggressive. And I think we're going to see that from James right here, right now, towards banana. There we go.
He's going to be flashing himself out. He's been tagged, he's been fragged, and it's just gone the same way. Oh, Keto, straight through 2 AK-47 headshots. That's the round pretty much wrapped up in a neat little ribbon. Unless VP have a hero in a Dren, Sanji, or Kicker. Their economy, again, doesn't really afford them the chance to go for this. And Dren spams up through the smoke, does take down Tabson, but it's a consolation frag. It doesn't really make a difference to how this round is going.
No, it doesn't. And it was like, that was like reading a bad book. You know, you knew how that was going to end, right? You knew exactly what's going to happen from James. He had a spawn towards banana. We talked about it. They need to be more aggressive. Big as well. They probably knew that was going to happen either towards banana or towards middle. So at that point, you know, if I'm Virtus.pro, you can't do anything about it now. But when you go back and look at this demo, you need to change up your playstyle earlier in the half. You need to make big second guess. What are we to expect now? When you do it this late and when you've only been applying one playstyle, the only adaptation you can do is to be more aggressive. And that's exactly what Big expected. So they send up Keto. He got the job done. And there we go. Another round for the German squad. And they're playing well right now. They can even afford to go hunting here. Doesn't matter whether they die or not. They have all the money in the world to buy up in this last round of the first half, and it's 9-5 wins. Personally, I'd be very happy if I were a Big fan right now.
Oh, I'd be ecstatic. You lose the pistol, you go 2-0 behind, you're fearing, okay, maybe this is going to be a bit of a rough start, and then when the rifle rounds have came round, it really has just been a one-sided affair. The German organization on home soil has been bossing this Inferno onto a whiff Molotov from Sanji. That's actually going to extend to a Dren. That forces out multiple smokes. That's an awful mistake.
Sure is, and once again, they're not willing to contest banana. They're not willing to contest it. Big Clan seem to have a great read of how to use their utility, but look at that. You know, with 25 seconds into the round, they have hardly spent any utility whatsoever. If you take a look at your screen, down right side, you see all the grenades lined up for the Big Clans. They haven't spent anything thus far, and they have full banana control. It's too easy for them. They're simply being given too much space by Virtus.pro right now. Question again remains, can they utilize it? Can they make something out of it? Comes down to killing, comes down to winning the duels, but as of right now, look at that. All the space is being gifted up, but they have a stack going on here though, and that could be what's saving Virtus.pro. 3 guys in this bomb site. Is it enough?
Sanji wants to take first point of contact, but Tabson and Fearston are cleaning house. VP,
no.
even with the stack, Pimp,
Yep.
you were highlighting it, you were setting up the play perfectly, and they still get wrecked.
Still get wrecked. Still get wrecked. You know, that's the utility, right? Big didn't spend any Molotovs at all to take the banana control. They didn't spend any flashes, any grenades, any flashes for that matter, you know. It was too easy. So when they do the execute on the bomb site, they have all the Molotovs, they have all the flashes, all the smokes at hand, and they were simply just one by one forcing out the Virtus.pro players. That's what happens when you play a little bit too scared and a little bit laid back. James, even with a nice kill here, is not able to do anything about this. Looks a little bit chaotic here, but he's going to go down eventually, and that's going to be first half done and dusted. There's nothing he can do about the outcome. Maybe get a consolidation before I can... Or get a knife in the back. Either way, there we go. Tizian doing him dirty, and I love it a lot.
Well, he's going to have to try and just mentally reset, and he's going to have a bit of time to do so. We're going to cut to a quick commercial break, guys. We'll be right back. In 2017's iteration of Leipzig, Big went the distance. And so far, so good, Pimp. They have looked very good on their T side. VP, though, they were asleep.
They were asleep. They were looking lackluster. They weren't really up for the task. Shans, Harris, Tapson, and Tishian in particular having a lot of impact frags. He's currently sitting at 6, but I feel he's had a lot of impact in the game, and that's something we often talk about. You don't necessarily only have to look at the frag statistics, whether you had a good game or not. Tishian's been playing well, and so has Big. Now we see them switch over to the CT side. Tapson very aggressive towards Banana with the USP here. He's going to see some action. 4 guys from Virtus.pro is walking up here. How's this going to pan out, Vince?
P250 can maybe rip and shred through a couple of players, but it's just the flashbang that's going to afford one. Tapson now next up to the plate, and you expect him to get the 3rd kill, a player of his caliber and skill level, but they peek out one too many times looking for the upgraded USP, and it cost him his life.
That's it. 3 versus 2 now for Big Clan. Good position. Tishian still aggressive towards Banana. If he goes down and he does to James, that's going to be it, right? The bomb side is open. Virtus.pro doesn't know that, though, and they're not willing to act on it. Slowing it down, making sure the smokes comes in. Looks like they want to head up to this bomb side, but yeah, CT spawn is still open. That's Shantaris. We know how deadly he can be with a pistol. Smoke goes down. That's going to make it a tiny bit harder for him, and we're into a 2 versus 2, and this is always a gamble, right? It can always go both ways at this point. Shantaris is not able to find any gaps through the smoke. Question is he going to act on this one? Is he going to walk through it as soon as he hits the bomb plant? Or is he going to wait on his teammate? Looks like it's going to be the second option here.
Yeah, especially with that smoke going down. Can't really afford to do too much. It would be an audacious play if he decided to push through there, but now Searson has joined him. The backup has arrived. No kits between the two of them. No grenades to play off either. And James just the other side of the smoke. Santares gets totally surprised by that, and then James goes into Searson. So both pistols have gone the way of the T's, of VP.
A bit of a shame for Big Clan. They started out the round very well. Tapson getting 2 kills, Tishian following up, getting the 3rd one. At that point, I would like him just to fall back, go into the bomb site. put yourself in CT spawn, put yourself at coils, and just spot whether they're coming into you or not. And at that point, you can retake the bomb site. 3 versus 2s with pistol, that's relatively, wouldn't say easy, but it's doable. But if you go down and you go down and you make it a 2 versus 2, you get into a scenario like this where it becomes, 50-50 or even advantageous for the terrorist side. So Tizian getting a little bit ahead of himself. I liked him just to fall back and not make that mistake.
Trent smacked down to just a measly 29 HP. That's off the scout of Searson, who continues to take the scope weapons into battle. Thing is though, as this round continues forward, it's where the superior firepower and grenades that VP possess should start to shine. The incandescence of the Molotov is going to force Antares at least to back away for the time being. He may go back in for another peek though with a deagle. You almost feel like you have to go for these gamble plays, but he's going to back away to the site and join his teammate Tizian.
What more can you do if you're Big Clan right now? You're kind of being pressured back on the bomb sites. Still a decent amount of utility to work with here. Tizian just used his smoke. Kido still got one, Shintaro still got one. That's what you want to do when you have pistols. You want to make sure that you get in close to a smoke, you get into a chaotic situation, and hopefully you can get a kill here. They're stacking up at this bomb site. Searson with the scout not connecting. That would have been vital. Gets a connection, but it goes down as well, and that's not going to be enough. Kido, I don't know why he spent the smoke on that. That was not really necessary, but it's not going to pan their weight anyway. Kido goes down as well. Jane with a double kill. Sandy following up. That's it. There was potential for Big here, but again, it seemed like they didn't really have a plan with the stack. They were just stacking and hoping for the best. Whereas if you do want to do a proper stack, you need a certain plan. You need to think in your utility. Like, you have a smoke, how are you going to use it? If they come into you, if they're going to execute on us, how am I going to put it down? And how are we going to act off it? And it seemed to me like that was just a improvised decision by Big that didn't really pan out the way they wanted to.
I do wonder if that Keto smoke was like an attempt at like a 200 IQ play to try and fake as if a player was in U-box and extinguish
maybe,
it.
and they were actually looking towards that,
exactly,
right? They were
so
not really realizing he was
it.
there, so maybe that was the play, but at that point you're sacrificing your entire team, right?
Didn't work anyway, right?
No. And there's only so much you can do alone on a bomb site with a pistol against the 4 guys. So maybe it was a nice little trick play, but again, if you do a stack like that, I would always prefer if you had a certain plan, a certain movement pattern you would do in case you were getting attacked on, so to speak. But that wasn't the case here for Big Clan, and again, it's easy to sit here and be a perfectionist in that sense. It's very tough to do on the server, and there's so many different aspects of the game you have to master, so I'll let them be excused for this one, but still, there was potential for more on this round for Big.
They do manage to save 2 deagles with Kevlar, so it gives them a little bit of power to play behind if they can get some guns across. Going for a stack, this time with all 5 players. And some nades. So if they time these 3 HEs correctly, we could see a tactical nuke being dropped on Banana. We'll have to see how many of the Ts are around to see it detonate. There we have it. Fireworks more than anything else for Bust Up. You got a front row seat. Oh, the nades back though are doing so much damage. It's carnage, it's mayhem, it's the slaughter, and it's a clean sweep of a round for VP. The stack doesn't work, but a buy is coming up.
Yeah, that was easy. I like the idea again. Big Clan, even though it looked worse than the other round, at least they had a plan here. They tried to execute it. They didn't really hit the timing with the grenades. The grenades wasn't really landing that well either, right? Even though the VP players would have been up there, I don't think they would have done too much damage. So they tried, they had a plan, they executed it, didn't work out, but that's still, that's good to see they have something prepared for rounds like that. So kudos to them for trying, and kudos to VP for dealing with it perfectly fine. Now Searson being aggressive down to middle, that's exactly what you didn't see Jane do. Didn't connect the shot though, that was a bit of a shame. Had the opportunity to open up the round for Big Clan, wasn't able to. And now he's falling back slowly but surely and allowing VP to continue with the default. That was close though, and I like to see the aggressiveness coming out from Big Clan. We did not see that from Virtus.pro, and I was a bit critical of that, so good to see Big Clan not doing the same mistake as we saw Virtus.pro do in the first half.
Hey, it took the words right out of my mouth. It's something that we didn't see VP do a single time on their CT side. You could see the disappointment in Searson's face as well. He knows he could have had that kill. Yeah. That could have been such a big moment on the CT side for them. Hefty nade damage to Sanji.
Very slow round, very slow approach by Virtus.pro. That seems to be the trend for them when playing Counter-Strike, at least in 2020 thus far. Playing it slow, taking it slow, not being overly aggressive, trying to play with each other at all times, which I'm a fan of, but sometimes you gotta get gotta get going, right? You gotta unleash some of that individual skill you have. You have a guy like Kickert on your lineup. You have Buster for that matter. Adrian used to be one of the best players as well. Sanji, James, you know, all these players are good, solid players. So we need to see that utilized as well. 27 seconds there. Looks like that's gonna be a B-go. Tizian and Pit though. How much damage can he do?
The smoke's being funneled down with a Molotov as well. It's going to force him out into the open. And that smoke stops anyone else from helping him out. There's a team kill in amongst the frenzy. James splatters Kickert. 8 seconds to go. The bomb's in an awkward spot. It's going to take them a little bit longer to get the bomb planted now. That gets the CTs that little bit closer in arches to try and pivot off for a retake. Damage inflicted to James as he catches his three off round. Flashbang perfectly timed. Adren gets hit by it. Has to switch to his Deagle. The heroics, the last stand isn't quite big enough. And now James on 6 HP is going to be knocked down. They had no kit, but they do have time.
They do have time. There was a great opportunity for Virtus.pro to win that one. 3 versus 2 when the bomb is down. That's definitely winnable. James again. Sorry to say, but he's not having the best game of his life right now. We expect a lot from him because we know how good he can be. We've even seen him with rifles, you know, do some solid work. This time around, though, wasn't connecting the shots. He had a chance, but wasn't meant to be. Tizian and Pit, though. That second kill right there, that's vital. If Sanji survives that one, most likely there's not going to be a team kill. Most likely, Virtus.pro wins the round. So well done to Tizian once again, having a lot of impact. Still only sitting at 9 frags, but I feel like all 9 of those have been very impactful, so credit to him given. Now another round for Virtus.pro, another buy, and again, a slow approach.
Big this time, not going for any early aggression. That grenade looked like it would do a lot more damage to Buster, just 10 HP. Has been evaporated. CS nades continue to be one of the most confusing things on the planet to me, Pim.
They don't make any sense, do they?
So inconsistent. Bomb dropped way back at spawn. Declaration of intent. VP going to have no quick rush to get into either side. They're going to be taking this one a little bit more methodically.
Yeah, it's very slow. Again, you know, I don't necessarily dislike it. I just would like to see Virtus.pro, you know, pick up the pace just once. We haven't seen that the entire game thus far. We haven't seen them be, you know, hyper-aggressive on the CT side. We haven't seen them be aggressive on the T side, and I can respect them sticking to the game plan, but at some point, gotta change it up. Otherwise, it's gonna be too easy for Big Clan to read out. They're allowed to sit back on the bomb side, right? We are 40 seconds left of the round, and still no mid control acquired from Virtus.pro. Still no banana control. They left that one as well. So for Big Clan, they can just sit back, relax, and be ready for this hit. That's a good name. That's good spam as well. We saw Adrian do that in the first half as well. Now Shantaras follows it up with a Molotov as well. This is going to be tough for Virtus.pro. Very, very tough.
Exactly. They know it's going to be an A play now, so they can afford to go for these plays. Spanning up through smoke, showing their hand, tossing their nades, and they've done a very good job of managing their grenades. They still have an incendiary left and a flashbang. Adren now going to be moving through. 8 seconds to go. He's going to try and get the bomb planted in the smoke. And he does successfully get it down. Kickert, in the meanwhile, runs out of ammunition, has to switch to his Glock, but the smoke is going to offer him sanctuary to replenish that mag. And Adren comes back in with more. Tabson saving the life of his teammates on the site just for a little bit longer, and then chips in for a second and a third, and it's another successful retake. VP are getting so close.
That was a very chaotic round. There was a lot of duels going the way of VP, actually, that I think shouldn't have gone their way. They were so close of making it, but then Tabson walks in, gets the double kill, and finishes up the round. This guy on your screen right here, he's having one hell of a game thus far, sitting at 20 kills, a lot of impact. He's making sure that Big Clan now having a decent lead, and a lead that I would say should be enough for them to finish out the game 12-8. And again, we see Virtus.pro, they're buying up, but the utility is not there completely. Sanji lacking a little bit, James lacking a little bit. We haven't seen James have any impact in this game whatsoever. He needs to be utilized, he needs to step it up. Otherwise, I'm afraid, on behalf of all the Virtus.pro fans out there, that Big Clan is going to run away with this. But I'm pretty sure the crowd out there would like that.
They'll have no problem with that, that's for sure. They're hoping that's going to be the case. And yeah, really, I think James is a victim of his own success. You expect so much more from him. So
it's also Inferno, right? It's a very tough map to have impact. It's a map that when you're being so defensive as he is, there's not a lot of stuff you can do. You often face a smoke, you often face a Molotov, you know, which repositions you. It's just very tough to be good with the AWP if you're not aggressive on a map like Inferno.
Yeah, and we can also twist it towards Big and give them credit and props too, that they haven't really peaked on their CT side. You see Searson playing aggressively, but then he backs away instantly afterwards. So James hasn't had many opportunities. That being said, though, here comes the aggressive play we're looking for. And Thompson instantly chips in with a headshot, and that's going to slow things down. There's Molotovs. They're burning alive on the approach. It is going to be another very difficult take, but James has made it maybe a little bit more possible. Keto through the smoke, gets himself another one. He's up to 2 frags for the round, and now James in a 1v4 in the smoke. The barrel of the gun not going to betray him, but Keto triples up on Pool, 13-8.
Great defense by Big Clan. Great defense. Tapson getting the first kill, then switching over to the grenades, not taking any extra pick, not going down instantly after getting traded on. Gets the first kill, falls back, uses utility, sets up Keto for success. Same what he does, right? He's playing that third box side, and he's just making sure that he puts down the Molotov, he's making sure he uses his flashes, and then he's peeking out afterwards when Tapson is ready and when the backup is coming in from Big Clan. That was some great defense displayed by Big Clan, and we're starting to see a pattern here. It's looking very tough for Virtus.pro to crawl back into this game. I think Big have by far been the team that's been playing best. They've had the best, game plan coming into this one, and we also see the individuals stepping up. That, though, was a little bit of a mistake from Keto, and that's an opening for Virtus.pro, and maybe that's exactly what they need to crawl back into this game. They only have 2 AK-47, the rest is on pistols. They've invested anything and everything into this round, so if I'm Big Clan, I don't want to give this one away. That was a bit of a mistake here.
Small gap affords him the chance to go for that incursion. Player drops grenades with him. As you say, that does put Big on the back foot. Now remember, they came into this round with a measly 2 AKs and some pistols, so this would be quite the turnaround. This could be their last gasp to try and pull this game back and make it an interesting one. No rotation through Banana. Searson is watching it by himself with the AWP. Going to be greeted with a Molotov from James. Time again, though, is starting to dwindle away, but they are setting up. Once that smoke clears in apps, they may go for a waterfall. Flashbang out, and here comes an army of terrorists and his kicker that's going to get the first, but Tapson and Centaurez have been left completely untouched, and Tapson and Centaurez going to pick up a full house of frags, and they have just made VP flop again.
That's it. That's it, right? Game right there. Tapson is on fire. Tapson is having one of those games where he just feels it. Yes, it's with the SD, but look at that spray control. Getting first kill, getting second kill, staying alive, coming in with the backup for Shantaris, who also hits 2 very, very nice shots with the M4. And there we go. The star duo of this lineup, the 2 supposedly best players for Big Clan, stepping it up and showing why that is what people think out there. And Tapson again, I cannot compliment him enough for this game. We talked about him pre-game, saying that he has the potential to be one of the best players, not only in Big Clan, not only in Germany. He's arguably the best player from Germany, and he has the potential to be one of the best players in the world. And he's showcasing that right now. And Tico coming in from Virtus.pro here. Shantaris getting a nice double frag. Searson as well with the AWP. There's nothing Virtus.pro can do about this. It's going to be 15-8. It's going to be match point for Big Clan. And at this point, Vince, what do you do if you're Virtus.pro?
I wish I had the answers, Pim. I really do. I feel like...
I thought you were a free-time coach as well, spare time coach, yeah?
Strangely enough, no.
No?
That'll be a huge surprise to
That's
many.
my mistake, man. Sorry.
And rip 7 match points on the side of Big. Maybe this is where you just go for the crazy aggression.
I'm not going to jinx them, right, but we've seen Big Clan throw away worse games than this one. So there's still a chance, theoretically. I'm just trying to keep the excitement levels up out there. We have seen Big Clan do some crazy stuff, so to speak, but I think at this point I'm fairly confident that they're going to win this one, right? They have everything in store for them. All the players are playing well, the game plan is working out, Tapson is on fire, Shantaris is feeling good as well, and Virtus.pro is not doing anything. I'm really disappointed right now.
I mean, you have to say that at least half of their rounds have been off pistol rounds.
Yeah.
They won both pistols, so when you look at rifle rounds, Big have been in command this entire game. They're going to be backing away to the site, Molotov's planted down to Banana, stops the push.
That's it. It's going to be the last push coming in from Virtus.pro now. Another slow round, another slow approach, and at this point I can understand why they're not trying to change it up anyway. It's going the way it's been going throughout the entire game. Big Clan is allowed to do pretty much whatever they want. Searson as well. He's only at 10 frags, but I feel he's been trying to be aggressive, right? He's been trying to make active plays with the AWP. Currently it hasn't worked that much, but at least he's done more than James. We saw him just sit back and wait to way too safe or way to not be impactful. And he was playing a bit too defensively for my taste on a map like Inferno. So there's definitely some demo watching he can do and maybe change up that play going on further to the tournament if Virtus.pro decides to play Inferno once again. Now coming in with the last push of the game, tabseN and Keto shuts them down. That's it, Vince. That's it.
Yeah, that surely has to be the final nail being put into the coffin. tabseN has been boosted up. Keto's gone down. The SG now ripping through the smoke. Nearly claims a second frag. And now Santares stands tall. Jame last man standing not for much longer. And Big in cruise control. Take it 16-8.
What a game that was from Big Clan. I think they can be very proud of this display. We know they just made a roster change. Smooya is no longer part of this lineup. We kind of didn't know what to expect coming into this game, but so far they've been showing great progress. We've seen tabseN back to the level we want him to be at. He's a superstar player. He's the star of this team. If he's playing like this at this level throughout the entire tournament, as you said as well, Big Clan is going to be a big mouthful.
Oh, they're going to be a nightmare to play against. Antares also having some pretty huge performances sprinkled in here and there. And VP on the other side, a team that many would have favored to go the distance, get into the finals bare minimum. That's a wake-up call.
It's a wake-up call, but now they move down to the lower bracket to get into the best of 3 scenarios, and I think that's where they can show their real strength, so to speak. But it is a disappointment, so to speak, and I think for Virtus.pro to lose this bad against a Big Clan who just made a roster change, it's simply unacceptable. They should be delivering more to the server.
Well, it's been a while since we last had a bunch of tournaments. Did that scratch your itch, desk? Or are you wanting to see more? Because I think VP fans are going to be pretty unhappy with that.
We want more. We definitely want more. I mean, we all predicted that VP were going to take that one.
Well, you always said big. I think we said big.
Yeah.
I think we said big, right? That's what we said. Talk about the home crowd advantage and all that.
Your heart's definitely mended. You said you're heartbroken.
We were worried about being heartbroken, and we were kind of still heartbroken after this matchup. So, you know.
We're not so wrong.
Well, we'll be seeing you next game, guys. Thank you so much for joining us for that one. That was absolutely spectacular to kick off Leipzig 2020. There were so many incredible rounds there to sort of break down, but it did start off initially quite close between the two teams.
Listen, I don't really know what angle to take. Do you want me to be mad about VP or happy about Big? Because I feel like we can tell two different stories. To be honest, Big did do a lot of great things. First of all, tabseN, the beast, long time no see. I'm very happy to see him back up there. 26 frags, about 120 ADR. That is amazing. These are the numbers he used to put when Big were having impact. Now on the side of VP, what is that defense? Help me.
It is strange. I feel like VP were so stationary, you know, and you could see that they were trying to make those proactive adjustments, but there was not enough proactive aggression coming out of them. We saw that they were kind of struggling towards that rap side, so we saw them consistently bringing Adren back and forth. We even saw Sanji towards that rap side. There was so much pressure coming out of the Big side of things, but where was Jane? You know, there was so many instances where I feel like he had an opportunity to go for a look, to go looking for some trouble or some contact or some sort of frag that's going to turn the tide for him and his team, but he just seemed to be a little bit too stationary, and he seemed to be playing a lot to his safe plays, and there was just not enough aggression coming out of VP.
Yeah, and the fact that you mentioned Jame, I think is very important. If we compare the two AWPs, so Jame on one hand and syrsoN on the other one, the amount of opening duels they were involved in is completely different. Jame was only involved in 3 in the entire game. syrsoN was involved in 8. That's exactly what I wanted to see from the sniper. I wanted him to go, take the responsibility, take the duel, and anytime syrsoN would win that duel, Big would convert the round. That was one of the main factors on that T side, and he was getting in there. He was trying to do the difference, whereas Jame, just like the defense, a little bit too passive, too stationary.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Pim brought up an excellent point that when they were trying to, you know, become more aggressive, it was so obvious that was the only thing they had left to do because they'd been so passive and been playing so far back on those sites. That was the only option they had.
Exactly, and we're not, when we say aggression, we're not meaning just go out there and look for the frag. You know, it's got to be a process of leading up to a specific point in the round, and it just seemed like VP kind of turtled up. They never went for a look towards that boiler. There was never any pressure, making Big uncomfortable to have them coming up towards that mid. We saw multiple occasions that stack in that A-bomb site with the 2 members towards the back of the site, and it just seemed like you can't make that sort of play and that sort of setup if you didn't have any setups leading up to that point.
Yeah, and the problem with that precisely is that because they didn't have any information on Banana was that Adrian, he had to stay towards CT base a little bit because you never know. The threat of going to B is always going to be there. So he had to stay there, and he was disconnected from the A site.
Well, thank you so much, guys. I have the absolute pleasure of joining the coach of Big. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us here. First of all, massive congratulations on that victory. It must be a very nice way to be starting off your 2020.
Yeah, of course. It's a very nice way. We are very happy and it feels really good.
Yeah, exactly. Well, I kind of want to talk a little about your approach coming into this tournament. Obviously, in Seville, we saw you guys kind of bottom out in the lower side of the bracket. What is your approach kind of coming into this, and what have you been injecting that's fresh and new into the team?
I think the approach is not completely different, obviously, yeah, but we have new players. I think our roles are fitting much better now. Like we have Kaito is also a piece what was missing. Surzon is a different AWPer. On the T side, we benefit from Kaito because he's really aggressive. Yeah, that's what we needed. He's also really fresh and he has no fear, so to say. Yeah, that's what we needed. But our approach in general, like strat-wise and stuff, is still similar. We didn't change like everything or so. We just, I think the roles are fitting better and we practiced. Our practice was much better. That was basically it, yeah.
Well, we were talking about it on the desk. Obviously, we saw Virtus.pro playing incredibly passive on that CT side. Was that something you were kind of expected? And did you find that quite easy to kind of counter going forward?
Yeah, that's what we expected, and we have our answers, or we had our answers against that. So basically, it was really the first time, I guess, in Big that we played like we practiced. It was nothing different. It also felt for us like that. And I think we were prepared really good for their play style and everything fit together.
Well, it definitely paid off you getting the first win of the tournament. I think our desk has a couple of questions to also ask you. Prospero Maniac, what do you want to ask? I love the coach down here.
I've got a quick question. Mine is a two-part question here, and I guess that goes with Xantares being, you guys having that international lineup. How many rounds, if any, have you guys lost because of the communication, whether it be too slow or not enough details because of that language barrier? And how much of a challenge has it been to adjust to that English?
I don't know if we lost so many rounds in-game because of in-game communication, but I'm pretty sure that outside, like the preparation and everything, is not so easy. And there we have often had some misunderstandings, and I think that's the bigger problem. Yeah, that for example the sense of a round is not exactly clear. Yeah, that for example he knows what to do, but not exactly how it's working. I think this is more of a problem. Like in-game, I think everyone plays FPL. I think it's fine. In the pauses, or always, of course, you could give some more details. Yeah, in your mother, how do you call it, tongue language?
Yeah,
mother tongue. But I think that was not the biggest. That's why it's also not a problem that right now that we communicate in English. Sometimes we also switch to German if we are like in a clutch or something. But we are also confident in German right now, in English. Yeah.
Awesome. I just want to talk about Tapson for 1 second. He was in full beast mode this game.
Yeah.
Do you think it's a consequence of the new lineup, new system? Is that a coincidence? Is that something that we are going to see more and more?
I think the line, it's definitely beneficial. Like Kaito is beneficial for him because like he fills out the aggressive part. Tapson had to fill it, like he had to do it himself, like before. Now Kaito can go in front. He can play more his game, and it's not all on him basically. Before it was also really many things were only on him. He had to go in front. Sometimes our game was based on him, and now like I think that's one of the reasons. But he's also like. He's really happy. We also have a good approach, like a good approach outside the game. Yeah, we have a good sleep rhythm. We, for example, the whole week we already stood up at 8 and stuff. Yeah, we do everything. We work out. Everything also around the game is really good, and he feels really. I saw it when he joined the server, and when how he was talking, I knew he will play like that today.
Yeah, I mean that's super interesting. Kind of picking up on that that you're saying about the aspects outside of the game as well are so important. It's definitely paid off for you guys. Congratulations again on that incredible win, and thank you so much for joining me down here on the sofa. We'll be back for our second matchup of the day after this short break. Don't go anywhere.